Hello?
Test, there it is. Like they call this workshop. Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to liberty and justice for all. Ms. Chick, can you assist in calling roll, please? Here.
Mrs. Otto is absent with notice. Chick is present, and Mr. Donner.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Make a motion, we adopt the agenda.
Support?
Supported by Chick. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Should be no board member comments or clarifications in that case. No correspondence. Agenda items. Number 1 is fiscal year 24-25 budget workshop. Number 3.
Do I have to hit something to make it?
I'm sorry?
Thanks.
Ooh, I've never had that happen.
Ooh, purple.
Bear with me a second. Video source. Chief? Just to make sure. Should I try it again? I just tapped the video. Sorry. And then click share. There it is. Sorry, Ms. Kujay.
All good. So one of the questions that there was a follow-up on, explaining it a little bit in more detail. So this is considered a best practice, and this is something that the Woodhill Group does for all of their clients. And it's up to you to decide if you want to continue with it or not. Basically what it is, it's an equitable sharing of costs among non-general funds for employees and costs that are paid by the general fund. And so local units of government use cost sharing to help reimburse the general fund in an efficient that we do that benefit all funds, such as paying IRS for tax withholding, preparing quarterly tax returns that we can't, cash receipting, accounting, and auditing. And so we meet with, like Jennifer and payroll and kind of assess what they do and allocate their time based on some expenditures for auditing and accounting is based on expenditures. And we do this based off of the last audited record. So this is based off of 2024, because that's the last full year that we have that was audited. And so then it kind of carries forward, and the next year we would look at this current fiscal year, and then, so it's kind of, there's a little bit of a lag. So then we considered and what is allocated. And I know that it was mentioned, like the manager. So this goes back to 2024 when Mark was here. And I know that Karen and Mark had sat down at one point, and, I know he didn't oversee police and fire, but he was in charge of the budget ultimately. So the receptionist, it's the number of cash receipts, time estimates, payrolls on the number of employees. And then on the bottom, you can see the auditing and accounting. And that's broken out. Now, I will say that it is possible, been done in the past, but they've both mentioned that that was something that occurs. And so that is something to take into consider for the future. And then this is the cost allocation plan year over year. Did go up significantly this past for 2024, and I estimate that that would probably go down for 2025. So that's kind of it in a summary, and I would say that that's 260,000. So it does have a significant impact to the general fund.
Okay.
And then, does anyone have any questions, comments?
Mr. Only?
If we're kind of going to do them throughout, you had mentioned that there could be some allocations to those other departments from the general fund for like police or fire or wastewater. Is that, you said it hasn't been done here, but do you guys do that in other communities? Are there general funds or other funds allocated to police and fire for the work that they do outside of their scope?
Not that I know of, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't occurred. We would just need, we would need to sit down and discuss it and quantify and have some way of tracking it, whether it was hours or, something quantitative that we could reflect and calculate out.
And then for this, looking at dollars to be allocated under manager, is there like a certain amount that does come out of the general fund? Is there like a percentage? Is there a target of the amount? I'm just using that one as a example. Is there an amount that we want to be charging just to the general fund for those salaries?
I don't
So,
understand your question.
so if the police are paying X amount of dollars to this salary, if the fire's paying this amount to the salary, is the general fund covering a certain percentage of that, or is all of that salary coming out of other funds?
Oh, well, the salary is currently, it comes out of the general fund, and then these other funds reimburse the general fund.
So
So the general fund isn't paying for anything outside of that.
So I guess what then I was looking for is like what percentage is being allocated to other funds for some of these salaries? So is the manager's salary is like 30% of it being paid for from police, fire, building, ground, like just a idea of?
That's so we've got like 3,000 going to police, and that's a very small percentage of that salary.
All right.
So you can see like the level of effort is kind of like the percentage of that salary that's contributed to that activity. And then it's broken out by, it would be a percentage based on, like I said, for payroll, it would be, you take the whole total number of employees, broken out by the employees by department, and then there's a percentage calculated on that. So then accounts payable, we would look at all of the payables that were paid out in 2024, take the total, break it down by each department, and then so I couldn't tell you off the top of my head what the percentage is,
But it's in there.
but it's in there, yeah.
That's it.
Ms. Chick?
So I think we talked about this at the last time we had our budget meeting, but the issue that the board has had in justifying these allocations is that we really don't have any kind of tracking. Like the manager, the police and the fire don't even report to the manager, so I'm wondering why we're actually allocating any of their money to the manager. I don't know what he had conversations with, I think it was Colleen or,
Colleen and Karen.
that he actually was saying that he did for the departments, but so we don't have anything to justify it other than a guesstimate of exactly what the administration is doing for the police and fire departments, and as far as that goes, the wastewater treatment plant as well. So I'm just wondering, is there any better way to do this if we just take a percentage of for the amount of the allocation, as opposed to, like Jennifer might say she spends, they're getting paid anyway. It's depending on where the money's coming from that they get paid with. But Jennifer might say she spends 3 hours a day on something, but maybe it's not 3 hours, or I just struggling with how we should do this so that it's fair to the police and the fire and the other departments that are being allocated are getting these allocations? Any suggestions?
Well, I think this came up last year too. So one thing would be the employees would have to track it, and that would be time consuming, to have to say, you know, I did this. They'd have to have a watch and time it, especially when you're doing accounts payable. You're doing a big batch, and it's for all different departments.
Right.
So they would have to track it somehow that way, or you could hire a third party to come in and do an analysis.
I guess I'm just struggling with approving this and not knowing exactly what's fair.
And, you know, this is our model, this is what we
Right.
use. And you can take some of it, you can take all of it. It's your decision to decide.
And how long has this model been in place then?
As long as
Fine.
I've been here, this has been
how
in
long?
place, but, so
like how
I
many years?
started in November 23 with the Woodhill Group, but this model is something that they've been doing much longer than that.
Am I correct?
The allocations came with Woodhill.
That's, okay. So the previous company that we used did not allocate any police or fire funds, or was it?
Of when we took over, but I know that Director Wagner fought it every year. So, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't part of that process at the time, so I don't know if he was paying allocations. Chris might know, but I don't know if he was paying allocations from the police and fire funds at that time. I don't know.
We had an in-house controller before we had Woodhill. Am I right?
We had a employee who was a controller, yeah.
I do know that a lot of the allocations that were done, that we're paying for now, payroll and stuff like that, was done by in-house. You know, Sue Hamilton did our payroll for 20 years.
And I know too that I think Jennifer submitted a memo that kind of broke down some of the different tasks that they do.
Yep. My next question would be if we just, to play it out, we scrap this allocation plan, we say we're not gonna do this, then all the money comes out of the general fund, and our goal is to still maintain a general fund balance at the end of the year. So I kind of see like this has been padding that policy that we have. Am I right? Like this allocation of funds has allowed us to take money from one bucket, put it into this bucket, and say this bucket meets the general fund that we have a policy for. So I don't know, when it comes time to make a decision on this allocation of funds, or when we have the actual going line by line of budget, I think there's some changes, in my opinion, that need to be made for each of these departments, so that they could spend the money in places that they went out for it for. I know we've had some millages go out recently for specific things, and now it seems like the bulk of those millages that were approved by the township are going to allocated funds, and that's not how it was presented to the voters, and that's not what they voted for. So, that's my thoughts.
I agree with Trustee Olling on that, and there was included, if everyone saw I had asked Jennifer to provide a list, and hopefully it helped out with some, but yeah, so to possibly look at those and look at possibly another solution somehow, so.
I mean, just like Jennifer's memo of tasks or I think it's administrative office fees, she kind of put that together. I think every one of the departments could put something together of things that they do outside of their, scope that could be charged for. And I think it would be really time consuming and nitpicking if that's what we want to go to. And then we're just moving general fund money to police, or general fund money to fire, and fire money to general fund, and we're just moving the money all around. So I think we need to look at
Ms. Chick?
I think one option is not opposed to, but to consider is paying someone to do, an outside person to do a time study is expensive, and basically having the administrative staff track their time. They'd have to track it for a certain amount of time to come up with the correct amount, and we've got to basically get this budget done. It would be just to assign a percentage for this budget across the board to the different departments. Just an option.
Mr. Moko?
I don't really have any issue with allocating. If you're working for different lines of business, you should be charging those lines of business. I think a simple solution on this would be leave the personnel costs and move all the accounting and auditing costs over to the general fund. Because those are the two that hit. You mentioned millages. We don't have a planning millage, we don't have a building fund millage, but at the end of the day, that's what's hitting police and fire the most. If we move those over to the general fund, it's only $142,000 to the general fund, leave the other $427,000 allocated, and I think we solve all the problems. Because I think you do have to allocate, some of the payroll to the clerk's office. I mean, stuff like that. But if you move the accounting, it's 2 lines, simple. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Only?
I guess just like your feedback from making it to a flat percentage, to reducing these allocations, to moving these 2 items, like, are these typical practices, or is there like just the way it's being presented to us is just the way it is?
The way it's being presented is pretty much,
The
standard how we do it. But you can pick and choose, and, we're running out of time this year. You can decide to go with what you did last year. This is something that we could look into further for the next budget cycle. It's really up to the board to decide what they want to do. But, it does have an impact on the general fund, so you have to take that into consideration.
Anyone else? Okay. The next item is discuss proposed fiscal year 24-25 third quarter budget amendment.
Well, does anyone, I also sent the whole budget in there. Does anyone have any questions or want to talk about anything on that? I think Jackie had mentioned the roads.
Oh, we just got word back, it was like yesterday, from the county on the roads, and I got the email, but I don't remember the figure, but it was particular to one road, and I don't remember the number, but I do have information, but I just got it. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so the 450 was budgeted for road improvements, and then if you break that up, it still would have the same impact on the budget.
Yeah, and that portion for the culverts was, so we had met with the county, and so there's been some, this was just this past week, so there's numbers that I can speak with you about, after, but.
Road repair for the culvert, right?
Yeah, I believe so. One was 262 and one was 226.
262 was the drain, and then the culvert, the road repair
Yes.
was 226, yep.
Yes.
And then I think it was requested at one point to talk about the budget for the land preservation fund. I think that was something that was voted on as one of the checklist items for reviewing the budget. So that's on page 9 of that, the budget report. And so we budgeted, like we did for the other funds, the 3.1 increase for the current property tax. I budgeted for interest income because those other items are pretty small. And then went with the contractual service of 10,000, which was kind of what we were looking at that period in time. And then chargebacks were 500, because that was about what it was, and that's all that had been budgeted. So pretty similar.
That contractual service, is that for Barry Lonick? Yeah, 10,000.
Or we could adjust it if we needed to.
Yep. Where was the, it was like 700,000 for paths?
750.
Yeah, where was that in here?
Did you take it out already? Because I didn't see it. No? Okay.
Nope, it's still in there.
Under,
Would it be Parks and Rec?
It's under general fund.
Oh,
It is on page 4 of that report in capital outlay park improvements, that 101,900,768. It's budgeted 800,000 because it has 50,000 for something else in there.
I think 50,000 is what they have in their balance already, correct? I mean, their amount to use there.
Well, let me see I'll pull up the CIP.
is that something that we want to adjust now, or is that something we adjust later when it comes back to us? That 800,000. It's at the bottom of page 4 there.
Oh, yeah.
Capital outlay, park improvements, 800,000 is the recommended budget
Yeah.
for park improvements.
Yeah, the 750 was something that the township manager had put in there. We weren't aware of it until we saw it last time, but we don't even know what it would be for, other than Parks and Trails, so.
So do we just want to put a
I
asterisk next
think-
to it to have it removed, or do we?
Yeah, if I could have something in writing, and then I'll take it out
Yeah,
from the board. And the 50,000 came from the parks, and it was for playground and equipment.
Yep. So is that something we need to have a motion on to remove that, or?
yep.
I've never done this budget, so.
Oh, okay,
So
yeah.
I'm truly
You
asking.
need a motion now, or do you want to do it before the final? What is
I think if we
typical?
do it now, it's gonna give us a better idea of our,
Okay.
fund, right?
Right,
It's not,
right.
we're not moving $10,000, this is a large
Yep.
sum.
So I'll make a motion to, under Department 900 Capital Outlay, Fund 101-900-768.000, under Park Improvements, to reduce that 800,000 by 750,000.
I'll support.
Motion by Chick, supported by Donner. Any questions, further questions, comments?
I just want to clarify for the public, like, this isn't taking money away from our parks or away from our pathways. We still have the $2 million coming from the state. This was a line item that was put in there without any direction, and so we're just taking it out of there, so we could maybe adjust that money and put it in other places needed.
Somewhere down the road.
Anyone else? So we have the motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. So,
Trying to recall if there was any other ones that came up previously that would, large sums that would give us a better idea when we come back. I don't recall. Do you recall any ones that we brought up?
No,
I know that one
that was a big one,
Oh,
and I know that there was talked about the 450 for roads.
Yeah, for the planning and zoning, I didn't see it in here. I did see it later in another document. The board had approved, oh, maybe that's for next year, though, 45,000 for the master plan, so, which we did start on already, but it won't be done until next year, probably.
I don't think that was in this.
Okay.
article.
So it'd be under planner fees,
I'm sorry, what was that, Ms. Chick?
under planner fees, the board approved 45,000 for the master plan.
Which page again?
Page 4,
Okay.
under planning and zoning department.
And you're asking about the planner fees? Is that what you're asking?
That's what that master plan fee would go under, the planner fees, correct?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, because it was McKenna's, that was McKenna's charge.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Need to add it?
Well, I think that would go, do you have like a motion on it, or?
Yeah, there's been a prior motion on that
So
amount.
I think how we would probably handle that would end up being a budget amendment for that, since we're already in the budget process.
Because I thought I saw, go ahead if anybody else wants to. I'm looking for something I saw.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying, the 45,000 McKenna fees. That is in the budget amendments for
Yes.
this year, yes.
Okay, all right. So we'll be voting on that. Yeah.
Any other questions related to the budget?
I've got one, and it's probably just something I missed. Department 267 under personnel. Last year, we budgeted for salaries part-time, 100,000. This year, we're at 200,000. Is that for the additional planners that we've been using, or for the building inspectors and all that?
Oh, for the billing official?
Oh, yeah.
Larry? Yeah.
That's my guess, but I'm not sure. So that's a heck of a jump.
So what line was that?
That was salaries part-time, 267-708.
In what fund? What page are you on?
Appropriations personnel, right?
No, I'm on page 5, Department 267 personnel.
So page 5 has the fire.
So that's part, okay, so, okay. Oh, that explains it, perfect.
So then would the building official come out of the building department? Where am I?
The new building official?
Yeah.
So that is currently, that's out of the building department, and I think
Okay.
a percentage is being charged to the general fund. And I budgeted how we were doing it for this past fiscal year, because at the time, no one has been hired, and so I stayed with what we did. So it was, I think there was a memo to the board that had a comparison.
Yes.
And so that's, would show you the difference. And so that would end up being, if someone is hired and in place, that would be a budget amendment.
Okay.
So that happened. There's somebody hired, started this week, so. Anyone else? Seeing none? Anything else? Yes. No?
Nope. So then the budget amendments, I wanted to give time for that too, because there was kind of a lot that went on this time. So last fiscal year, we had budgeted money for grant income for MDNR, Connecting Communities, and Healthy Communities. And that money did not come in last fiscal year, but it came in, some of it came in February. And so that is adjusted in the general fund. So that's actually very good news that money came in, because that is going to bring your revenue over expenditures on the budget back up. And so that, I think, is going to get you out of that violation of your fund balance policy. And so there will be a whole, once this goes through, your next meeting, when you get the little monthly spreadsheets, that'll have the fund balance report that'll be in there. So the money came in for MDNR for $300,000. Connecting Communities came in for $225,000. We increased both the grant income and the park improvements expenditure line for the shoreline development money, because the engineering has already started, so we did both the revenue and expenditure for that. Money came in for the healthy communities that was budgeted last year for that 46,500, and then that transfers in, I believe, is closing out ARPA. So then on the expenditures, we have the planner fees for McKenna, the park improvements for Temporary Drive. There was the renovations for the audiovisual system here, and then the renovations for the township office space reconfiguration. Does anyone have any questions on any of that? So then both police and fire have a increase for the shared server replacement that they share. So that's 7,302 each. And then the Land Preservation Fund had some contractual services for tree more and appraisal services, and then purchased an easement, and 2 easements, it looks like. So that's increasing the expenditures there for that. And then, see, the State Narcotics Fund, we typically don't budget anything for that other than interest, and so this is just increasing the supplies for what was spent. That's 1,250. And then the federal narcotics, that's in the same situation, so that's reflecting the higher year-to-date operating costs, which still keeps them in good shape. And then there's some budget added for the bond, that 577, the sewer improvement fund. So we increased for interest income and construction and bond interest. And then Fund 631, which is the building and grounds maintenance fund that is split 3 ways by the general fund, police and fire. So there was the water softener replacement and the fire suppression system pump repair. So that's what's in there. Any questions?
Anyone? No? No mistake?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So the bond interest income, we've made $100,000 of interest on that already? All right. So I know there was some discussion when we put it out to the public. They thought it was going to be a tax increase, and trying to share with them that we had the money to do the project, but getting a bond, we actually would make money on the interest. So just so if the public is watching, we've already made $100,000 on that, so.
Ms. Chick?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget amendments for fiscal year 2025 budget, and by resolution. That's it.
I'll support.
Motion by Chick, supported by Only. It's the resolution, you say?
It said approve the budget
The
resolution.
resolution, I think, is actually in the budget,
Yeah.
the 7 o'clock meeting, but we just
Need a motion.
wanted to have time here, because I know it was a long meeting, and I thought this would be short. I just
Okay.
wanted to have time to discuss what went behind these amendments.
So we don't need the
You
motion,
don't need a motion?
You don't need a motion now, but you'll have a motion.
or it's an agenda item for the.
Yeah, it's a, yep.
Perfect.
Disregard.
Disregard the motion.
I
Very good.
withdraw my motion. My emotion.
Any other questions? So I will remove that 750 from the park improvements and take that out. So next time you see anything for the budget, that will be taken out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job.
You'll be in tomorrow?
Yeah.
I'll see you then. Okay. There's no, next thing is, there's no announcements, no petitions, communications, Board member comments, clarifications, Mr. Only,
None at this time?
Moko, Ms. Chick,
No, sir.
Mr. Donner.
None for me.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Support by Chick, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.